Hello, mixtresses and mixters. This is mixtressrae. You're watching mixtress video. Slightly different angle. Ooh, so exciting. Okay, so I'm going to do an unfair comparisons today. It's not that unfair because these are both by Londa Marks, but of Londa Tarot and Crow's Magic. Londa Tarot. The scenes on each card are a stage with characters presented in a dramatic and theatrical manner. Experience the crow's magical kingdom of enchantment, spellbinding birds, animals, and creatures rule the electrifying 78-card Crow's Magic Tarot deck. Also, the beautiful 78 cards by Londa are highly stylized, unique, and spiritually influenced. I don't know exactly how to say what I want to say, but I've been having conversations lately with people. You know who you are. I think I'm going to show the little title cards and stuff too. About Artistintent. Okay, so first of all, so if you're just here to look at these two decks next to each other, you might want to just mute me because I don't know how much I'm going to be talking about the decks themselves. I'm probably going to be just babbling about other things. But I was talking to a friend recently about Artistintent and about how sometimes we as a society, in our capitalist society, we as consumers of tarot particularly, let's just do this part first. These are the little title cards. There's just 2 title cards in Crow's Magic, and with Londa Tarot, is it the last card in the deck? Yeah. There's this extra card that just says, "Who are you really?" So I'll just take those aside. The backs are similar styles. So the thing that I've been thinking about lately is, you know what? I'm gonna change this because I can already feel my back not enjoying that particular situation. So here we are. I'm going to be drinking a whiskey too while we're here. Okay. So something that, I and other people have noticed is that, if you are a person that's watching this video, you might be a person that collects tarot decks, right? So this deck, Londa Tarot, was created in 1993 and Crow's Magic in 1998. So presuming, if you're watching this right now and you have in your possession more than one tarot deck, and you might be watching this because you're interested in acquiring even more, whether you have 50 tarot decks, 2 or 470, you might be a tarot collector. So if you're a tarot collector, you probably love art, right? This is kind of interesting as an unfair comparison because they are very dissimilar, but they're created by the same person. I like them both for different reasons. Look at this sword with the heart. That is interesting. And I like how androgynous, this person on the right could be any gender. Truly. So if, people that like tarot, people that like tarot, people that collect tarot, I I have to consider myself a collector at this point. I mean, I have, I think about 30 tarot decks. I've recently rescued some from my purgatory and brought them back into my life again. So that means I have more again. So this one has keywords and little astrological symbols on, I think, every single card. So if you're a person that collects tarot, sorry, I'm like having a hard time starting this conversation, and you like that, you know, it can be assumed pretty safely that you like art, right? So how do you consume art? I mean, different people consume it in different ways, of course. But something that I'm noticing, and I'm not the only one, I don't think that this is probably a good image to exist. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. She did better the second time. Sometimes I've heard people say things like, I wonder why the artist decided to do this. I wish there was a guidebook. And, you know, fine. Like, I've said that myself. But okay, I feel really strongly about this subject of artist intent. In school, I majored in psychology and minored in art, but I actually, when I first started going to college, I was majoring in studio art. And I did that for the first 2-ish years of college before I switched to psychology. And this is so cool. This is so cool. 2 excellent tower cards. And one of the things I really hated was artist critiques, because it was just, you know, standing around with a bunch of other pompous assholes talking about how important their art was. You know, like everybody got a chance to explain their art. And have you ever seen the scenes in the art class of Ghost World? Have you ever seen Ghost World? And, you know, the sort of like the pompousness, the idea that like the pompous kids in class that could pontificate at length about their art, whether or not it was good, which of course that's completely subjective, whether or not art is good, of course, but whether or not they had put that much effort into it, if they could talk about it in like some sort of profound way, then they were the ones that art teachers preferred. You know, I've had so many like crazy experience with art teachers because, you know, art is extremely subjective. So I've had art teachers completely love me, and I've had art teachers completely hate me. And either way, I was putting in the effort. Either way, I had an artistic voice. But sometimes, like I had one art teacher that he just completely hated me. And it didn't matter what I did. I was getting a fucking C in an art class when I had never gotten a C in an art class because I was putting the effort in, because I had a distinct style. I had a voice, you know, and as long as you are getting better as an artist, I mean, I think that's how you have to judge a kid in an art class. If you're an art teacher, right? That's how you have to grade a kid in an art class, is are they making progress? Are they finding their own artistic voice, right? But something that's always been really important to me is I don't know exactly how to say it. And this is also a very subjective thing, like artist intent. Do you want to know why an artist made certain decisions, or do you want to look at the art? You know, it was pointed out to me by my friend that I'm having these conversations with that we are forgetting how to look at art. We're forgetting how to see art ourselves. We're expecting art to be explained to us instead of making our own meanings from it. I've always kind of been uncomfortable with finding out artist intent, you know, and this is a big conversation, and there's not one good or bad answer to it, you know, because you get into tricky territory of like when you're talking about artist intent, because sometimes, you know, you can be talking about artists that are terrible people, like R. Kelly, like Marilyn Manson, and is it okay to have a relationship with the art without the artist? And it depends. It's highly subjective, and it depends on how much a part of you their art was before you knew of what kind of person they were, right? And sometimes you can just be like, I don't fucking give a shit. Like, as long as I'm not financially supporting that person, I'm going to enjoy their art however I want to enjoy it. There's a certain level of, once the art has been released from the artist into the world, it becomes a different thing. It belongs to, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It belongs to everyone at that point. And I think we're getting into some tricky territory in our society when so many of us have somewhat of a relationship to the artists that are like, particularly like, you know, because I'm a part of this tarot community, like, what does it mean when we know intimate details about the artists that are creating the tarot decks that we're buying? You know, we know whether or not they're a nice person a lot of the time. We know what kind of person they are because they have a lot of times a social media presence that we have some awareness of. And is that good for our society to have? Is that a good thing? I mean, there's no one answer to these questions, you know, and it depends. All of it depends. But like, is it a good thing for us to know intimate details about an artist? Like, I actually prefer not to. The answer for me is always, I don't want to know why the lyrics are what they are. I don't want to hear the story behind the lyrics. I want my relationship to the lyrics in a song to be what I've created them to be. So personally, I have always really appreciated artists that refuse to explain their art. That's always been, just for me personally, something that's really important for me, because like, I think I saw like an interview with Trent Reznor once where like they were asking him about one of his songs or something, and about, what does this lyric mean? What is your favorite part? What is your favorite song that you've made, and all this stuff. And he basically refused to answer those questions, and he wasn't being a dick about it. I'm sure in the past he has been a dick about it, but he seems to have matured as a person to a certain extent. But he basically just said, I don't want to answer these questions because I don't want to interfere with your relationship to my work, because your relationship to my work is a completely different thing than my relationship to it. You know, I don't want to influence how you feel about my work. I want you to create your own relationship to it, basically. And I just respect him so much for that. And I think that there's a certain level of like, but at the same time, people are people, right? You know, like if I start putting out tarot decks and shit, you know me, if you watch my channel, you know me on a somewhat more intimate level. You might have a certain kind of feeling about who I am as a person, and that might influence whether or not, that might have an influence on whether or not you want to engage in any of my work if I start having work for you to engage in, you know? And there's a difference between explanation and information, which is what my friend says. I don't want to like reveal, in case this is a conversation that, you know, should be more private. there's a difference between saying, like, okay, say Londa Marks had written, she did write a guidebook for Crow's Magic. I haven't actually gotten to engage with it yet. I'm supposed to be able to borrow it on interlibrary loan, but it hasn't happened yet. Say she explained why she chose this particular type of lizard for the Page of Cups. She said, well, I decided to choose this creature for this reason. That's information. It's not over explanation. You know, it's not telling you that. It's like, okay, it's like those decks that have people in them. Like, if Londa Marks drew this Knight of Cups based on her second boyfriend that she had in high school, which I did not notice until Sylvain pointed it out to me, that the cups that are in the cup suit are these little, they're like little silhouettes of people, and then there's like this heart hanging from the middle of the cup. Isn't that cool? This deck is deeper than it appears. But like, if she were basing that character, if this looks like her boyfriend that she had in high school, fine. But if she tells you that in the guidebook, that affects your relationship to the card. Because then it takes you out of it. It makes you go, well, what was this boyfriend like? Does she still know him? Does she like him? Did it end badly? You know, like, all of these questions are put into your head, or put into my head anyway, if I'm given that kind of explanation. But if you just say, you know, I picked this type of cup because to me it symbolizes, etc., etc., and, you know, choose what you will. And I like the idea. I'm not really saying what I want to say very eloquently, but what I'm saying is we are losing our relationship as consumers of art. We're starting to lose our ability to find our own meaning in things. Like with the Thoth deck. This is a I don't know why I got it out. Look, it's a box. I'm not going to get it out because that's totally going to confuse what I'm doing here. But like Sylvain and Lyndon Smith both have said that, you know, essentially the Thoth deck, like, you can use it right now. You don't need to study it before you can use it. You can use it. You can read it intuitively. And if you choose to dig deeper into it, there's lots of meaning behind all the symbolism in that deck. You can research it and then uncover the layers as you go if you choose to go there. And like Meg was saying in one of her recent videos, Rose Honey Ritual, you know, it would be a great option as far as packaging is concerned and things like that if, you know, guidebooks could be optional. I mean, first of all, I don't even think you necessarily need to write a guidebook if you're making a tarot deck. I don't think it needs to come with a guidebook. If you don't feel called to write a guidebook and you don't have a partnership with the person that you're making a deck with that really feels passionate about writing a guidebook to accompany it or whatever, you don't have to have one. It's not a person that is an artist trying to overextend themselves into making a guidebook too, because they feel like, you know, you have to have a guidebook. You have to explain the history of tarot in chapter 1. No, you fucking don't. We can find that information if we need it. There's a lot of tarot decks these days seem to be created with the idea in mind that it's going to be your only deck, when that's just simply not the case. That's not the way that the market is. Most people don't have just one deck. And again, as Sylvain said to me, and if you do have one deck, guess what fucking deck you have if you have one deck? You know, you have this one or you have this one, and then you stop. And there are a million books that have come out about these two decks. And they don't come with huge guidebooks when you first buy them. You choose to go further and buy those books and seek out that information yourself if you choose to do that. We don't need every single tarot deck to have a giant thick guidebook that tells you the entire history of tarot and whether or not you should read reverse cards and all that fucking typical shit that's in all of those goddamn guidebooks. We don't need it. We could get it separately. Like if somebody wants that, you know, why can't a deck just come in a tuck box, and if you choose to buy an extra guidebook, you can. And maybe, like I was saying in one of my most recent videos, you know, if you want like a fancy box set that has a guidebook and has this big nice box, then you can seek out the special box set version or whatever. And I know that's a lot of production shit to worry about. But you know what's a lot of production shit to worry about? Whenever you're putting all of that stuff out just as a default. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have an explanation in front of you for why this Ten of Swords is the way that it is. You can look at this image and you can ask yourself, why do I think it's like this? You can make up your own stories, and I guarantee you that's going to be more meaningful than someone else spoon feeding you what these meanings are. And you can also have both when both exist. Like my relationship to the Marigold Tarot, I had access to the PDF guidebook, but I didn't really look at it. And I created a relationship with that deck based on my own feelings of the symbolism. And then when the guidebook, when she released a version of the guidebook, I bought it because I love that deck and I wanted the guidebook. And that is the perfect example of exactly the kind of information, not explanation, you know? She says in the guidebook, like, why she chose a particular plant to symbolize that particular card because of what it means to her. And that's it. She leaves the rest to your imagination. And you can have both. Like, you can create a relationship with the deck based on how you feel about the symbolism within that deck. And then if you choose to go and buy the guidebook or go and read the guidebook that it came with and get even more information, then you can. And then it's the more information is an addition to your own intuitive relationship. Not to say that that's the only way to do it. But the conversation that I was having is that we're losing our ability to create our own intuitive relationships to art. Because we're saying things like, well, I wish I knew why this was here. Well, it's there for whatever reason you say it's there. That's how art is. Art is completely subjective. It is exactly what you say it is. That is exactly what beauty is in the eye of the beholder means. It means that you are taking in this imagery. You are deciding, what does it mean that there's like this weird little creature creeping up on this wall behind this person? How does that relate to the Two of Pentacles? However you say it does. That's how tarot was created, because people made up meanings. You know, it's elephants all the way down. We made it up since the beginning. Every single thing in life is made up. You don't have to be told how it is. You can decide how it is. You have that freedom. You are just as much an expert on whatever it is as anyone else. And if somebody's getting into some gatekeepery bullshit with you and telling you that you have to study Thoth for 10 years before you can understand it, or whatever it is, you tell them to fuck right off because you understand it right now. And could you go deeper into the symbolism? Could you find out historically what was meant by this brushstroke over here and this thing over here and blah, blah, blah? Yeah, you fucking could. You could read all the books. You could decide to read all the books, and that could be exactly what you want. but you also don't have to. You don't have to be an expert to enjoy tarot. You don't have to know why an artist made every single thing that they made. And both of these, she included like some historical tarot books. There's the Encyclopedia of Tarot. Volumes 1, 2, and 3. I assume 1 is the one that's open on the table. I wish the whole deck were like this card because I love all the detail put into the surroundings here. I love that. I don't know. I feel like I'm not making any sense. But Artistintent has always been a subject that is important to me because I don't want to know. 9 times out of 10, I don't want to know, because when I find out what a song means or what the symbolism in a card means or whatever, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, well, that's not the way that I see it. And then I feel stupid for not interpreting it the right way. And guess what? The artist's way of interpreting it is the right way for them, but it's not the right way for everyone. It's art. Art is this like magical, ephemeral, crazy, changing, spiritual thing. And like, I don't know about you guys, but I create fucking relationships with my tarot decks. You know, they have personalities, and it, you know, it doesn't really fucking matter to me what Londa Marks is like. I like her tarot decks, and I like what I see there, and I like the reflections of myself that I can see in her art. And it doesn't really matter what kind of person she is. I mean, it matters in the sense of like, I don't want to, since we're in a capitalist society, whenever I find out that someone's a total fucking dick face, I don't want to give them money if I can help it. And I do what I can whenever I find things out like that. Like, I won't stream Marilyn Manson's music anymore after finding out what a terrible human being he was earlier this year. I won't stream his music anymore because I don't want to give him any money. But I still own some of his music digitally, and some of it is really important to me because of what it meant to me when I was growing up. And the relationship that I had to that music, I mean, it's wrong to say it has nothing to do with Marilyn Manson, the human being, because he was a huge part in making that art. So I can't say that it has nothing to do with him as a human being, but you have to know that when you're an artist and you create work that you choose to share with the world, that it no longer belongs entirely to you once you allow others to create their own relationships to it. You know, it breaks my heart when I see people like, and it's their choice. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's all very subjective, but it kind of breaks my heart when I see people like going to get their Harry Potter tattoos removed and things like that because they don't feel good about J.K. Rowling anymore. And it's totally fine to not feel good about J.K. Rowling, the person. But if you grew up with Harry Potter, which I totally did not, I have no personal relationship to Harry Potter. But if you do, if that got into you early and it was a part of your upbringing and you grew up reading those books and watching those movies and, you know, feeling really connected to that fictional world, that shouldn't be taken away from you because you no longer feel great about J.K. Rowling, the human, you know? I don't know. That's just how I feel about that. And again, it's art. It's very subjective. You may feel differently. And it's all a personal choice, too. All of it. All of it. And I don't know, maybe someone can create a VR to this and expand upon what I'm trying to say and say it in a more eloquent manner. But for me, 9 times out of 10, I don't want to know the artist's intent. I want to create my own relationship to the art. And if we're constantly being explained what art is and what it's supposed to mean, then we're losing our own ability to create our own meaning. And, you know, making a lot of assumptions here, and not all of these assumptions may be true, but if you are into tarot, you likely are into spirituality and also art. So if you're going to have a spiritually based relationship to the art of your tarot decks, it's going to have to be personal. It's going to have to come from within. You can't just read all the books on tarot and have a profound experience. I mean, maybe you can. I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said about gaining knowledge from people that came before us. I'm not saying that that stuff's not valuable, but the reason that that stuff exists is because somebody believed in their own interpretations of art and the world and spirituality, and they made up their own meaning in life and they wrote it down, and now we're reading it. And you can't just follow blindly what spiritual teachers and artists and other people say about the world. You have it in you too. We all are capable of, we're all artists in our own way. We all have creativity within us. We all have the ability to create and bring ideas forth, and your ideas are just as valid as mine, and mine are just as valid as fucking Aleister Crowley's. You know, that motherfucker made up his own fucking existence. You know, he made up this world of just all this complex, crazy, esoteric shit, and people follow it as if it's some kind of religion. And that's just a silly example, but that is just an example of a human being that created his own reality. And I'm sure that made him very happy. But we all have to find ways to create our own reality. And it's going to look completely different than it looks for anyone else. And if we lose our ability to interpret art ourselves without having it explained to us, then we're losing an entry into spirituality, spiritual enlightenment. I don't really know what I'm saying, and I feel like I'm just going to keep talking forever. But I just want to know what you guys feel about Artistintent. Do you want to know the story behind art that you love? Does that enhance the experience for you? Does it ruin the experience for you? Does it really make no difference because you can just be like, okay, well, that's not the way I see it. All right, then. La la la. Yeah, anyway. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like this is incoherent, and I'm kind of nervous to put it out into the world, because this is not... I feel like I'm still kind of processing what I want to say, and so maybe I just need to put it out there. This is just the start of a conversation, and y'all are gonna expand upon it and make it sound so much cooler than I just did. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay? All right.